Veruschka was the world's first supermodel, a playmate of Hollywood stars and a pioneer in the art of body painting. Veruschka, née Countess Vera von Lehndorff, grew up in East Prussia in a 100-room house on an enormous estate that had been in her family for centuries. Her father, Count Heinrich von Lehndorff, was a wealthy landowner and German Army Reserve officer who became a key member of the German resistance after witnessing Jewish children being beaten and killed. Hitler's headquarters at Wolf's Lair was a few kilometers from the von Lehndorff estate, and his diplomat Joachim von Ribbentrop, ignorant of Vera's father's sympathies, took over half of the Lehndorff castle and lived alongside the family. Little Vera was filmed playing with von Ribbentrop for propaganda purposes. After a plot to blow up Hitler, hatched by disillusioned German officers, including von Lehndorff, failed in July 1944, the authorities showed up to arrest Veruschka's father. He escaped, only to give himself up after seeing a machine gun pointed at his wife's head. On the way to Berlin in an armored car, he escaped again to the forest for 4 days. Again worried about the safety of his family, he turned himself in. Veruschka's mother and her 3 sisters spent the next 5 months in camps. That September, Count Heinrich wrote a last letter to his family before he was killed. By the end of the war, her family was homeless. Vera, who attended 13 schools, told that she spent a lot of time alone in the woods hiding among the trees and wishing to become one. I was living a totally underwater life after the war. We were under shock about what had happened to us. At 14, she was a gawky 185 centimeters. Children called her stork and she thought she was ugly, and her body badly proportioned and horrible. She escaped into art, studying in Hamburg, then Florence. By that time, she was no ugly duckling. At 20, photographer Ugo Mulos discovered her on the street and soon she was modeling full-time. Tall models were still unfashionable in Paris, but there Vera met Eileen Ford, founder of the prestigious Ford model agency, who told her they liked them statuesque in America. She advised her to eat hard-boiled eggs to stay slim. In 1961 she moved to New York, but nothing happened. She went to see Eileen Ford, but she didn't remember meeting her. So she returned to the Munich countryside and decided to create a mysterious persona to help her stand out. Vera became Veruschka. As if her family history wasn't memorable enough in itself, she created a fictional, mysterious past, telling people she was from Russia. From then on, no one who met her forgot Veruschka. She found another modeling agency and returned to New York with her new identity. In 1964, Diana Vreeland, the editor of American Vogue, pinned a photograph of the beguiling 23-year-old to a wall and declared, "Veruschka, you're going to hear from me." After a few shoots, Vreeland encouraged her to come up with her own ideas. Taking her up on the offer, Veruschka posed in Japan's snow country wearing a lynx coat and standing next to a sumo wrestler. In 1966 she did her first shoot wearing nothing but body paint, and it became a lifelong artistic pursuit. Most of the time she did her own makeup, hair and styling. The most successful ones were done like that, because I was in charge of it, she says. With the photographer we created the whole thing on the spot. We cut up the clothes even if it looked better. She teamed with Salvador Dalí and photographer Peter Beard, who took her to Kenya. There, in an attempt to go native, she painted herself with black shoe polish to resemble surreal plants and animals. It took weeks to remove. Veruschka made the cover of Vogue 11 times. Vreeland's only complaint was that she sometimes looked past the camera and looked a little sad. "Don't have that future look, be now and be happy," she'd say. And I couldn't agree with her on that, Veruschka says. That was a little bit of a conflict. My success has been because I was my own boss. I saw it like a stage where you perform. In Blow Up, her name was misspelt in the credits and she was only on screen for 5 minutes, but that was all it took to make her internationally famous. What begins as a seemingly routine fashion shoot between Veruschka and a photographer, based on David Bailey and played by David Hemmings, culminates with the photographer straddling her, still snapping away and cheering her on. Even though both actors remained clothed, Premiere magazine recently named it the sexiest scene in film history. "I don't think that is so great, that scene," she told. "It became a big thing and honestly it's a mystery for me why. I never understood why I got so famous with that film. There were passionate affairs but she liked them brief. She never married or had children. Male models and beautiful men did nothing for her. I rather like people who have some kind of character, something strange. I very often like men who are much smaller than me." Suitors included Dustin Hoffman, Al Pacino, Peter Fonda, Jack Nicholson, and Warren Beatty. In 1974, Veruschka fell into a heavy depression and began drifting away from fashion. She saw a psychiatrist who helped her dig into her painful past, having her read aloud that final letter her father had written. She spent time in Germany with her mother, wrote in her diary and photographed herself daily, and did a lot of body painting. Around that time, there were rumors that her looks had been damaged after a car crash, which she denies. She says the 2-centimeter-long scar on her right jaw is the result of an accident in Greece when she slipped on a rock. She bade farewell to the fashion world in 1975, after artistic disagreements with Vreeland's successor at Vogue, Grace Mirabella, who wanted her to change her image so average female readers could relate to her. Although she'd made as much as $10,000 a day at the height of her modeling career, she had no savings. In 1985, Veruschka infiltrated the New York art world, putting on a body painting show in Tribeca. She worked with the photographer Holger Truisch, a former lover she first collaborated with in the early 1970s. They conceptualized Veruschka's time in fashion by painting outfits on her naked body and transforming her into wild animals and archetypes such as film stars, dandies, gangsters, and dirty old men. In the past 3 decades, Veruschka has returned to the fashion world occasionally, including a trip to Australia in 2000 as a guest model at the Melbourne Fashion Festival. So, Veruschka, born Vera von Lehndorff, was a German model and actress who had a significant impact on the fashion industry, particularly in the 1960s and 1970s. Here's how she influenced fashion. 1. Veruschka was known for her striking, almost otherworldly appearance. Her tall, statuesque figure and distinctive features broke away from the more traditional, softer looks that were popular in earlier decades. This exotic and slightly androgynous look helped pave the way for more diverse representations of beauty in fashion. 2. Veruschka was more than just a model, she collaborated with photographers and designers to create images that were works of art. Her work with photographer Richard Avedon and with designers like Yves Saint Laurent pushed the boundaries of fashion photography, turning it into an art form in itself. 3. Veruschka was known for her ability to transform herself into different characters through makeup, styling, and posing. She often took on roles that transcended traditional modeling, whether as an androgynous figure or as part of a surreal, artistic concept. This aspect of role-playing and transformation influenced future generations of models and artists, who sought to challenge and expand the conventions of fashion. 4. Veruschka was one of the first models to gain international fame and recognition, setting the stage for the supermodel phenomenon of the 1980s and 1990s. Her presence and persona extended beyond the runway and print ads, making her a cultural icon of her time. 5. Her work also had a broader cultural impact, especially through her appearance in Michelangelo Antonioni's film Blow Up, 1966, where she played herself. This role further cemented her status as a symbol of the 1960s counterculture and the intersection between fashion, art, and film. Veruschka's legacy is one of innovation, breaking barriers, and redefining beauty standards in the fashion industry. Her influence is still seen in contemporary fashion, where models are often celebrated for their uniqueness and ability to transcend traditional roles.